Hey, good morning. It is time for Coffee Talk. Welcome and thanks for coming. It is Sunday, early Sunday morning. We got a few things to talk about this weekend. We are going to talk about a holiday update. We're near the end of the holiday op, so that thing is just about over. See how I am doing. Have a couple comments on that overall. The second thing we're going to tackle is some things I think Wargaming could do, some low-hanging fruit that would be actually easy for them to fix. Talk about some of those, which will bring me into the top tanker event as I'll touch on easy things to do, and will segue nicely into, we're going to dig around in the Beta Hall of Fame, which I think has been forgotten by Wargaming as I look through that. And then we'll get into some news and bits at the end of that with a warning at the end about third-party purchases. Warning about third-party purchases. Let's get started. All right, let's start in the specials on the webpage here. We've got the Loza War Chest. The Loza is a Tier 6 Sherman, Soviet Lend-Lease kind of thing. Loza is apparently the name of the historic commander. It's got the actual number 936, I think, on the side of it there. So another one of the clone tanks that's actually a historic tank for the collectors, which is pretty cool. Plus it's Soviet, so you can train Soviet crews in a Sherman if that's your thing. You got the Revolorize Rev, the Tier 8 French Premium, medium with that big old gun on a Sherman chassis. That is a great tank, by the way. So if you're in the market for a French medium trainer, or just a good premium, that one's pretty good. Doesn't have a whole lot of staying power because obviously there's no armor on a Sherman hull. But as far as mobility and bringing a big gun around, that one does it pretty well. And you can still buy boxes. We'll talk about that as well a little bit later. So let's get into the rest of how I have done. All right, for holiday ops, I've been sitting at 48% with all four of the possible 48%. So I won't go through all that stuff. You guys know how that works. And plus, it's over today. So we come in here. I've got all the stuff on all of the different things you can decorate. You go in here. What's the real question? The real question is, where am I on getting all of the collections done and getting my camo? Good question. So if we go in here, up here, I've got 58 of 63. So Math and Public, that's 5 left there. Another 4, that's 9. Another 4, that's 13. And another 2 brings me to 15. And that's an interesting discussion because I have bought a considerable amount of boxes. What I did not do is track too closely which collection I bought the boxes from, but it wouldn't really matter because I haven't maxed out any of them, right? So especially at the Tier 5 stuff. So whatever I have bought hasn't really, it's brought me further forward, but it hasn't finished any of my collections. So if we go back here, we get to the craft, you'll see that I've got 19,760 shards. Now I have a considerably less shards here than I should. Why? Because I did some of that scientific investigation early on about how you craft on this thing. I'm trying to figure it out for you guys how it worked, and there were a considerable amount of different ornaments and things that I got duplicates of and wasted shards on. Why is that potentially important? It's potentially important because if you're trying to get all 4, you need to maximize the amount of shards that you have. And the ideal way to do it, let's say you're not going to buy anything, the ideal way to do it was to just collect these things as you go, maximize as you could the decorations, but not worry about trying to get to level 10 immediately. That way, for all of the different missions that came up, you maximize the amount of random ornaments that you could get and maximize the amount that you got in your collection. What that didn't do, though, is get you to the level 10 Festive Atmosphere very quickly. For that, you either had to buy quite a few boxes, or you had to do a lot of crafting and either A, get very lucky, or B, burn through shards until you got where you wanted. Because I bought a good amount of boxes and I burned through some shards, I got to Festive level 10 fairly early in the event. But again, I burned through shards. So now that we're on the last day, by the way, this is the last day. Remember, it says the 15th, but that's tomorrow. In the States, that's tomorrow morning. So unless you're going to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning and try to do some of this, I recommend that if you're at the end game and you're attempting to clean up all your collections like I am, you do that later tonight, today, something like that, whenever you have some time. I am still going to try to maximize by getting a few more of the missions done so I can get a few more boxes, and we'll talk about where I am on the missions in just a second, so that sometime in the evening tonight I will take all of these off, break every tier 5 that I have that was even on my decorations, and then go through the craft thing and see if somehow I can come up with those 15, which raises an interesting question to me. What did Wargaming plan this to do? Did they plan this around the idea that any kind of casual player could get at least one of these done? Did they think maybe 2? Or did they really make this event an event where they were figuring you'd buy a bunch of boxes? That's an interesting question, because I did sort of both. I did play a lot to go ahead and get all the missions, but I did buy a lot of boxes. The sidebar to the lot of boxes is they were a really great deal. And I've already talked about that last couple of weeks. I'm not going to get into the gambling thing and the rest of that. You know my feelings on that. It wasn't gambling. It was a great event. But they're really tied in, aren't they? So while on the one hand, it's a little irritating that you probably had to buy a lot of boxes to get to the 4, on the other hand, it was a good deal. But that still leaves me with the question up for their developers, which will never be answered, not to me anyway. What exactly was the plan as far as this goes? Did you think people would get one? Were you figuring you just buy a bunch of boxes? Or really the way I think it probably went down is there was no real plan. They may have done some quick math on random boxes for the number of missions that you got. But the problem is that RNG played such a heavy hand in this. I would imagine there are some people out there who didn't buy a single box, who did this thing completely randomly by just doing the missions in game, completed all the missions, and probably completed some of the sets by doing so. Well, in my case, that just hasn't happened. You see, I'm still 15 short, all tier 4 and 5 awards out there. And that's even with me getting a bunch of boxes that all had tier 5 awards in them, or tier 5 decorations in them. So from my experience, that's where I am sitting. I'm kind of curious what your experience out there is. Anybody actually completed one without even buying a single box? And if you bought boxes, how did that go for you as well? And to be also interested, come Monday, I'll be feeling all right come Monday. All right, go ahead and let me know how that goes. All right, so I said we'd look at the missions on events. Right now it's just the 50B on track. That's been swapped over as of the 12th, so Friday. So if you're wanting to do the 50B thing, there you go. Remember, it's quite a bit of experience, but if you're already grinding that line and you've got the premium, you're either going to get the premium if you don't have it, the little tier 4, whatever's usually there. What is it? Doesn't even tell me which one it is. I don't see it. All I see is the credits it's worth because I have all those little tier 4 tanks. You'll get a garage slot out of it. So if you're already on the way, it's a good way to grab a garage slot. A premium, a little premium if you don't have it, some extra silver at the end. If you look then on the missions tab, you can see that I've gone through quite a few of these missions. I said we talk about it. These are all completed. I want to say there was 15 missions or so. I'm not going to add all these up, but I have about 15 boxes left, not 15 missions that I can get. Some of these are worth more than one box. There's 4 there, 3 there for completing all those things. Whether or not I get through that today, I don't know. But that will then determine, once I get to the evening and getting ready to go hit the sack, what happens as far as breakdowns and whether I can go ahead and get some of those camos out there. As a completionist, I want to get all 4. Probably not use them very much, if at all, but it's just an interesting event anyway. So we go down here, we got Tank Mastery. That's all well. Remember that Tank Rewards is still going, and it actually ends tomorrow as well. And then selection after a couple days. You'll notice that I'm at 117, so 115 was the maximum. I'm not going to go back over the webpage. I've showed that multiple times. 115 was the maximum you could get. So I've got all the way to the top tier prize, so that worked out pretty well for me. This one was pretty easy. I mean, there were days where I actually did it in 3 battles, no kidding. You know, a tier 6, a tier 8, and a tier 9 or 10. There were other days it's going to be 15 battles to knock those things out. I don't like the win requirement. We've talked about that multiple times, but there you have it. There are some other missions going on this weekend. This supply raid stuff is going on. That's just giving you some nice little goodies right there. And so the last thing I want to talk about on this is, and I guess I did not leave any boxes available here to go through it, but you know how to open them all up. My question with the boxes then is, it kind of goes back to talking about the premium boxes, the ones you buy with actual money. Why didn't they make these in-game boxes a little bit better? How come they didn't make some small percentage and maybe get a tier 4 premium or something out of one of these in-game boxes? Or maybe some equipment. It doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while maybe get equipment. What I saw was credits. I saw 3,000, 7,000, and 10,000. I saw large consumable kits, and I saw small consumable kits, usually multiple numbers of those when you got that one, like 3 or so. Let me know what you saw down there. If you saw anything interesting, like did anyone get a premium out of those? Did anybody get any equipment? Did anybody get a garage slot? You know what else would be cool in those? What if they just put like a random crew member, one of these brother-in-arms random crew members in there as well? I mean, there's so many cool things that they could do with this, which segues me into the kind of low-hanging fruit that Wargaming has out there that for some reason they ignore. Now, a developer is only going to be able to do so many things. They only have so many people, they only have so many hours in the day. They have their direction. Right now it appears to be HD maps and futzing around with the Russian line, which I'm not poo-pooing because content is king as far as I'm concerned, as long as you can not completely imbalance the game. That's a whole nother subject. But there are definitely some low-hanging fruit. And that little event right there was one of them that could have been so much better if they'd have just put a little extra thought into it. So let's move on to the things I think Wargaming can do. All right, let's talk about the low-hanging fruit that Wargaming could make some money on. And I don't mean literally make money, but do well with in their game. They are concentrating obviously on this Russian line and more importantly the HD maps, and a company's only going to have so much time for its developers, for its artists and everything else, and they only have so many of those people, so they can't do everything all the time and all at once. But these are some things that have been sitting around in this game for a long time, and I don't understand why they haven't been touched or worked on. And one of the big ones is crews. Now there was a push a while ago that they wanted to go to more of the World of Warships crew, and I played a little World of Warships. I don't really understand how the crew stuff works. I did not dig into it more than just float around in a boat and shoot a couple times. But the idea is that it's basically a whole crew, and you've got skills and perks that wrap around all that. What they say is it's just a captain, I think, is how it works. But it's a more of a conglomeration of skills and perks, and you don't have individuals. I like the individual crew member in World of Tanks, and I like trying to manage these guys. And I like that each type of crew member has specific stuff. I think that's all really good for content for the game that makes it interesting, makes you think about how you move your crew through. But the question then becomes, how come they haven't touched skills and perks for so long? Because there are so many of those that are absolutely useless. So let's take a look at that. Go into the personal file of my commander here, and I go over to the skills. Now he's working on Sixth Sense, and that's an absolutely mandatory skill. Sidebar, I am not a fan of giving everyone Sixth Sense right off the bat. I think that's a great skill slash perk, and it should be trained. That's another subject. The common ones are what the game started out with as far as repairs, concealment, and firefighting. I don't even think Brothers in Arms was there back in the day. I can't remember. And basically you just decided what order you wanted to train those. And then they made an update and they added all these other cool skills and spurks. Pills and spurks. Which was great, but that was a long time ago. And they haven't really touched it since then. So the question is, how do I train my guys? I'm not going to get into that too much, but we will go through these skills and perks and talk about some interesting things on them and why some of them are actually useless. Repairs, concealment, and firefighting are all pretty good. Firefighting, however, would probably be one of my last skills to train, since I use a large firefighting kit or a large fire extinguisher in nearly every one of my tanks. There are arguments for that. But as a general rule, I think everyone would agree it is well down on the list, but still useful, so there's no real change required there. Brothers in Arms is huge. Most crews should have that at some point within the first or second skill. Again, arguments to be made for that, plus or minus. But then we get into these other skills. Mentor, this is almost wholly useless. This is a long game skill, so if you're playing a very long game, then it may actually help you get more skills in the long game. That's all I can say for it. I mean, it just, based on how long it takes to train crews in this game, I just don't see the value of Mentor. I certainly don't see it over some of these other skills. Recon is very good. Anything that's going to increase your view range is good. Jack of all trades sounds good, but is relatively useless, especially if you consider that we have cooldowns, essentially reloads on med kits, and we can fix guys as we go. Still, not terrible, but not really good. Eagle Eye is almost wholly useless. I don't know how you would really use much of that information. I would say potentially if you were able to see that you knocked out a gun and that it was an okay time to poke on somebody, say you were side scraping against, then that's useful, but that is so situational as compared to all these other perks that this is well down on the list. You'll notice that in particular on this T69, this guy actually is also the radio operator, and you will find that on your commanders as you get to higher tiers, that they will then have another section of radio operator skills. Otherwise, if you have a standalone radio operator, he's got these things. So for the higher tier tanks where you have a radio operator commander, adding another extending view range kind of perk or skill is also good. And then you get into the completely useless ones. Signal boosting and relaying. Low-hanging fruit, man. Change these somehow. Change your radios. Lower the distance that radios work. Doesn't seem very realistic, but by the time you get to 5th or 6th tier, tier 5 or 6, radios don't matter. Low-hanging fruit, all I had to do is re-vector some of the ranges and make that a little bit more interesting. It would make it important to have scouts out there relaying radios and such. That does happen down in the lower tiers. It can be important, but once you get to tier 5 or 6, it just doesn't matter. I don't understand why they haven't moved that around a little bit. Call for Vengeance seems interesting. I don't know how you would ever know whether it was actually doing anything for you, really. That one's very nebulous. Hard to know whether it's helping you, and there are so many other skills, especially on a commander radio operator, that it's more or less useless. So let's get rid of him, and we'll go over to the gunner. Same thing applies with these. I won't talk about those anymore. The gunners actually have some pretty good skills. Designated target is not great. Armorer is pretty good, but it only makes you a little bit better. Armorer should be something like a broken gun has no effect for that guy that's got armor. That's how that really should work. Deadeye is okay, but it's a very small percentage. Probably better on autoloaders and things that fire a lot into the same place very quickly. And Snapshot is obviously very good. Definitely recommended. All right, so the gunner has some pretty good stuff. Drivers are also interesting. There's a couple that are okay. Again, the standard ones. Controlled impact is situational to and specific to certain very large tanks, KB5s, Type 4s and 5s, E50s, E50Ms, even Panthers. Heavy within their class with a decent amount of speed. Even though a Mouse and an E100 don't have a really decent amount of speed, you can add this controlled impact onto them and increase your damage by quite a bit. But not something you'd put on a lot of tanks. Still, not a bad skill. And it's interesting, right? It adds something to a certain kind of tank. So that's the kind of skill and perk you should start working on and adding to your game. Off-road driving is good. So anything where you've got that bad terrain that helps you out. Smooth ride is absolutely fantastic for moving gunnery. Preventive maintenance is okay. But it is a perk that I don't quite understand. Seems like it would just be a skill. He's able to clean better as he goes. That's okay, but it's down low on the list. And clutch braking, which is really good for certain vehicles. Again, kind of situational like controlled impact. You're talking TDs, slow rotating, hold rotating tanks, and SPGs will do a lot of good with clutch braking. So gunners or drivers are actually pretty good, and we get down to loaders. You get into loaders and you've got repairs, same stuff up there. I won't talk about that. And then it's interesting on the loader stuff because in the case of intuition, let's see right here, it is a perk, and if 2 loaders have the perk, the effect increases. This is the one of the 3 where if you have 2 loaders, the effect increases. But if you have 2 loaders with the same thing on these 2, the effect does not increase. So on tanks with 2 loaders, it's actually better to take one and have the other guy take the other, and you'll get the same effect out of it because it doesn't get any better with 2 guys having it. Safe stowage is probably one of the best ones for a gunner right here. That will help you stop having ammo racks or decrease the amount of ammo racks that you get. Some tanks are quite ammo rack prone, so that's a good one to have. Adrenaline rush, hugely situational. Down to 10%. Yeah, it's a good thing to have if you get down to 10%, but not really very interesting. And intuition, I mean, I don't know. I've never really heard anybody come onto the forum or talk about it and say, man, intuition really saved me right here. It was the best thing ever. So it's probably not the best one out there. Point of all that is that as you look through the skills and perks, there are quite a few, but they've been all the same for a long time, and there are just some that simply are not used because they're useless, right? So you have a whole skill perk system that you haven't touched for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it's been. Low-hanging fruit. Just a little wickering, just a little movement. But what happens with wargaming is when they decide to change something, they just throw everything out, baby in bathwater, and completely redo it. There's not a whole lot of incremental, iterative changes to make it better. That's not how they seem to operate. And that's unfortunate because I think in the case of skills and perks, they had a lot of really great opportunities along the years to make some of those more important or to potentially just add new ones, little ones along the way. And I'm not even going to go into it because there are so many ideas for just little bonuses to make different crew members better at certain things, and that would really work out. Now, to some extent, they've done that a bit with equipment, because if you go over here, you can get improved equipment now, right? So that's a little bit better equipment. You can get it with bonds. They have opened up bonds. You'll notice that I've only got 2,242. So all the playing that I do, I've only managed to get that many. I don't play a lot of tier 10s. That's why I don't have a whole lot. You can get bonds at lower tiers, but you're just simply not going to get as many. Still, that's pretty cool. So you get these little plus percentages. Something I found out right here, which was odd to me. If you go on here, it says I don't have the bond, so 5,000. That one's in the red. I need 2,758. And there's a demounting cost in bonds. That was interesting to me. I didn't realize that. But this one's red, and I come over here and this one's not red. And I look and I go, well, I don't have enough bonds. Why is that one not red? Well, these are the two that I happen to have on my tank. And it does say that you've got to, where is it? Equipment. Yeah, demounting. Oh, yeah, I can't find where it says that now. So it seems to be quite random, actually. But it said you can't put it on because you've already got one mounted, and that seems to be why these are not red. As far as I can tell, that's very strange down here. And this one says 4,000, doesn't have it red. I don't know why they're not all red. Those are those little attention to detail things that Wargaming has a problem with right there. One of the last things that would be interesting to me is setting up a better automatic tourney kind of system. It's been a long time since I've done tourneys. I know you got to do signups, you got to sign up teams. Some of it is automated, but wouldn't it be nice if it was just in the client right here, and it was the Monday tournament, and it said join, and you clicked on it, and you added yourself, and it says that we start at 3, and off you go. You know, I mean, low-hanging fruit, man. Just little stuff like that would be, and if you automate it, then you don't need so much bloody inputs. You won't have so many tickets coming back and forth. I don't know, it's crazy. And so the last thing then, which that brings me to, is the top tanker thing. I don't understand why they haven't done top tanker again. Remember that 6-8 months ago, maybe a year at this point. What they have done is this beta Hall of Fame. Let's talk about that. All right, the thing about a UI for me, and as I get into this a little bit myself and some little bit development and producing of software and whatnot, is that it really needs to be kind of self-evident. It needs to be intuitive so that it makes a lot of sense. And a lot of times their stuff just is not. This is fine. Hall of Fame, it's a beta, got it, you're working on it. By the way, they haven't touched it since they put this thing out the first time, as far as I can tell. So let's go to my ranking. So we'll go to my rating. We come in here, and it eventually loads all this data. And it may be that one of the reasons they don't have more options in here is that it takes quite a bit of digging around on their servers to get this information. So that might be part of it. I don't know how exactly it works in the background, but it seems like you'd be able to work through that stuff. In any event, my achievements, selected rating, January 2018, vehicle tiers, 40 plus battles. It's hard to tell what this is for. Is it for just January? I don't know. It's hard to tell. really is hard to tell. I think it is for just January, but it doesn't really say it. It says that here, but if you click on that and you do the drop down, the options are by month or yesterday. Yes, yesterday. How'd I do yesterday? Well, how about the last week? How about the last month? How about the last 6 months? How about the last year? How about the last 2 years? I mean, what? That goes back to the digging back into the server and getting the information. So that may be the challenge that they have. But you can do it to some extent. You can go back by month and go, hey, how did I do in August of 2017? We'll talk about this in just a minute. August of 2017, I did this. Okay, so I was top 1,000 in average experience. I got these numbers here as better than X percentage of players on all that stuff. One thing I found interesting about these stats as I dig through, I'm not a very good blocker of damage. I'm always very low on blocking of damage. That's probably because I tend to drive the lighter skin tanks, the faster tanks. Or maybe I just don't know how to block damage. That's possible as well. You can change it to tier 8 to 10, and I do this, and then it, wait a minute. Okay, so, wait. So 875, 265, 1.46. This seems to make no difference, is what I found out. I've done this several times and clicked around. Oh, wait a minute, did that 59 change over there? I don't think it does anything. No. So that appears to do absolutely nothing. All vehicle tiers or tier 8 to 10, from what I can tell, it is a useless button. There's a thing that says 40 plus battles right here. So apparently I've automatically selected 40 plus. There's no other thing to select right there. I assume you have to play 40 battles in that month to even show anything, potentially. I don't know. No idea why that is there. Or I can go since December 2014. So there's that thing that you can go back, but you can go to 2014, which I believe, has it been that long since they put this out? It may be that 2014 is when they put out this, and it has sat there in beta. That doesn't make a lot. I don't think so. There's something else happened in 2014 that I can't think of right now. But in any event, once you do that, you can select for some other things. You can do 1,000 plus battles or 4,000 plus battles. What does that mean? I'm only going to see 1,000 of my battles. I'm going to see 4,000 of my battles, or I'm only rated against guys with 4,000 or 1,000. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to select. Let's see what happens. 8,650, 1.37. Let's see if the numbers change. 1,747. Oh, okay. Yeah, that seems. Is that because I did more than 4,000 and 1,000 or 4,000 doesn't change for me? Who the hell knows? That makes no sense. Oh man, it makes no sense. And you come back here and you go, well, how'd I do in April? And I'm assuming that this is in April because it doesn't really tell me that when I look at it. Is this from April till now? I don't think so. I think this is just how I did in April. Well, why the hell do I care what I did in April? Really, I don't give a damn what I did in April. What did I do from April till now? Do you have any graphs showing improvement? Can you select or sort in other ways? Stuff I care about. I can go friends. Let's see how I did yesterday. You know, because yesterday. All right, yesterday, I wasn't so great against my friends. Kind of sucked. I played 3 games, I think, or 4. Hey, my clanmates, I was number 1 in average experience yesterday, and against the best players. Well, this appears to just be the best players. No indication in here of how I did against the best players. It's just those are the best players. Okay, it's a Hall of Fame. Got it. Let's get out of this. That's enough of that one. We're going to go over to vehicles because it gets even dumber over here. Remember, low-hanging fruit, right? So we're just digging into this, seeing how things could have gone better. There's so many selection and sorting things that you could do with those stats. It would be so interesting to people. I mean, you could get buried in that if you just created it. And it's all about the programming and the thought process that goes into these on how data should be presented. So this is pretty funny. All right, so we're on vehicles. January of 2018, and I can only select for 30 plus. Apparently you need 30 to get ranked officially. But you can see that since I haven't played anything close to 30 battles, it takes my top X number of tanks and shows them to me. I need 14 battles more to go ahead and get ranked in the IS. It shows me where I am on their rating so far. I got a 6,000 now, I need 24. but I've only played 6 out of the 30, right? So that I'd have to play a whole bunch more, and who knows if I'm going to maintain that high of a ranking. I did it in 6 battles, but it would normalize over time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks showing, and I'm like, all right, cool. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait a minute. Oops. Well, that's it. You get your top 10. There is no way to know what other tanks you were playing in January that is wherever they are. I mean, I'm sure I had others that I played a game or two in. Why are they listed in big bricks with the big tank sitting there? Why not just have a ranking system over here? Every tank you've played in January and all the numbers for it. How you did, where you rank, what your World of Tanks rating is in it, all that kind of stuff, just right along. Now, that stuff exists, but it doesn't exist for me. It exists on a larger level, and you can also search by particular vehicle, which is fine, but I can't just at a glance see a list of my tanks. So that's kind of dumb. But I can go ahead and drop down and say, all right, how did I do in September? I come over here. Hey, look, I was 24th in the AMX 1357. How did I do in October? I was 22nd. And how did I do in November? And you get the picture. So you go through, oh, hey, look, I was second in the Firefly in the month of November 2017. You can see that I played quite a few battles and all these. Oh, that's gross. Look at that. And LTTB, we go here, 176 on that guy, 417th in the Scorpion. And we go to the end, and you get 10, and that's it. So why? Why isn't it just listed out where I can see all that information? So then I go, all right, well, what else can I get? I go tier 10. All right. So tier 10, best players in the World of Tanks, right? The most popular tier 10 vehicles. So E100, Batchat, IS-7, STB. Really? All right. So what's in April? We got the E100, the Batchat, the IS. Okay. And the STB, and then so we go down here and we go. All right, we go to January, and it's the E100, the Batchat, IS-70. Have these names changed? I don't know. Let's find out if the names change. Maybe the names change in November. Yeah. Oh, hey, at least the names change. But we've got, this is it. You get these 4 that are. Why are those 4? Were they the most played for the month? They put the beta in 30 battles. I don't, what on earth? All right, since December. Does this change it? No, doesn't do it. So that's completely useless button. Who? I mean, they have created a completely and utterly useless button that has been in there for I don't know how many years. At least 1, maybe 2 years. All right, new. This one was fantastic. New. Okay, it's 4 scouts that are new. Interesting. Wasn't there more new scouts when those scouts came out? I thought there's at least 1 missing in there. Let's say there isn't. Okay, so we do the same thing. We're like, all right. So December of 2014, those were new, and then we go to September. Oh, and then we're gonna go to January maybe, and new tanks. No, no, it's just the same 4. And if I go to March, there's no vehicles. The scouts weren't out in March, but I can go from since December 2014, 150 battles. That works, and 500 battles, and does that change names? That changes names. So that actually does something. I can change the 3 names of the top guys by selecting the different months and the battles. What? Okay, so let out. Oh boy, here we go again. Premiums. These 4 premiums. What about in September? Different premium. No. Best players on the most popular premium vehicles. Those are not the most popular premium. Are those the most played? I don't think so. I'm not going to look it up. I don't think they are, though. They can't be, because every month it's exactly the same 4. But the names change, so they got that part right. So they have coded something that could be fantastic, and they put a bunch of buttons in, and I got it. It's beta, noted. But they haven't touched it clearly, right? So they put some capability in there, kind of random as far as I'm concerned, with no real thought of adding to it or making it more interesting, and it's so easy to do. All you have to do is go to some of these third-party sites and look at the different selecting and sorting capabilities on those sites. copy that a little bit, clean it up, make it look cool with little icons or whatever, and voila. Maybe a month or two of work at the most for a couple guys figuring out how to put something in there using what you've already built, and done. I don't even know if it's a couple months, to be quite honest. Seems like maybe in a week or two somebody could make this better. You can search by vehicle over here. This one this one cracks me up too. So I I click on it and I look at this and I start scrolling through, and I'm in tier 1 and then tier 2, and I'm trying to figure out what the order is, and it is completely and utterly random. It's not by country, it's not by type, tank type, it's not by tier. Well, it is by tier actually. That is the one thing that it seems to be by, at least on this first selection when you say select vehicle. It's not alphabetical, it's just completely and utterly random. So there's some background information that these are selected or sorted by that they've written into the code, but God knows what it is, and it's certainly nothing any of us give a rat shit about. Now you can sort and select by that. Same thing there, same thing there, but within, so I've done it by tier, but within tier there's no order whatsoever. It's not by anything I can determine. It's not alphabetical. I don't understand it. So this is almost completely useless. If you know the exact vehicle you want, then you can go, all right, I know it's a low, so it's an 8, and then I'll do it by country, and then I'll have to dig around and find. Maybe I could even go to heavies, country heavies. So that got me in the ballpark. So after like 3 or 4 clicks, I can get there, but it's just, holy cow. So let's look at, we got the Lowy. All right. I go like this and I say, all right, so what do we get out of that? Well, I get the top. Looks like Schnitzel Truck is number 1 in the low. I'm going to keep calling it the low since December 2014 with 150 battles. If I sort by 500 battles, probably changes some of the names. Looks like he hasn't played 500 battles in it. So we get this Ranster guy, and we look at this and we go, all right, how many battles did he do in this? The number of battles isn't even there. Why? It's not even on the list. What? Damage per battle is good, I'd say. Experience is good. Average number of vehicles destroyed, that works for me. Blocked, I don't know. Who cares? Maybe put the number of battles. Maybe collapse these a little bit and put more information. Whatever. So I wanted to know, I'm selecting, I want to know where mine is. Well, where the hell am I? And there's no, I'm like, what? Where am I? Player search? Well, I could do it that way. What's this little button do? Oh, it takes me to me. All right. Let's, intuitive stuff, right? 1, 2, and 3, and menu. Actually means go to my position. What? That's just terrible. So I'm 136, and that's the information down there. The other way to do it, apparently, is to just search your name right here, and it will take you. What I've also seen isn't, I'm not going to dig through it anymore on this, but a couple times when I did this, when I did that thing, oh my gosh, I'm completely going backwards. It would call up the list, it would show me the top 3, and down at the bottom it would show me where I was. It would actually have my ranking over to the side, but that doesn't seem to be standard for all of them, and that one I was not able to dig through and figure out. It seemed here, type 59, see what it does when I do that, because I know I played that tank. There it is. So this time it actually put me down here. It showed me how many battles I needed to enter the ranking, so it gave me more information, and for the ones that I was ranked on, it would actually tell me 100 or 200 or whatever it was right there. But on that last one, I wasn't even on the list, and I had this little icon. So what the hell's the difference? Maybe this is only if you don't have enough battles to be in the ranking. So why not make it that way for both? See, this is the stuff that drives me crazy. All right, low-hanging fruit. That is me digging through. I haven't really looked at this beta thing. I just did this for you guys to kind of look at it, and it is a chocolate freaking mess. It really is a chocolate mess, and so easy to get right conceptually. All right, I'm not going to talk about how their programming goes. I don't know, right? Maybe as far as that goes, and for the reach back to grab the data, that may be too much for the servers. I don't know that, but it seems like it could be pretty damn easy to do and would be cool for the players. All right, news and bits. Looks like Wargaming NA is relocating from California out to Austin, which is also a tech center out there. So that's an interesting decision to me. There's a lot of people crying that the sky is falling. Little chicken littles out there because they're moving. They're saying it's a cost-saving move. Austin also has tech people out there as well. Nice thing about being in California is you've got all those kind of various people that you need to run a company like this or to have an outpost like this. The company's not run, obviously, from LA. As far as the NA division of it goes. But Austin also has a lot of those kind of people, so we'll see what happens right there. I don't think this one was interesting to me. They kind of got caught out on this one a little bit, and once again, it goes back to how they deal with their community, man. This was on the console, and basically what happened here is they released this 4503 that has this special paint job. On the console, they have a lot of kind of weird little paint jobs on there, and it looks like that right there. Problem with this is that it was stolen in whole cloth from this guy, who is one of their skinners, one of their modders as far as skins go, and he had already done this exact same paint scheme, and they ripped it off, and they did not give him credit. Holy cow! So there was a little bit of a crap storm, and they actually apologized to their credit. But why did it happen? I don't know. All right, schedule for 9.22. And the big one, as they say, the big one. So we've got the January 18th, the first 9.22 common test. I think that might already be started, but even very soon. February around the end is going to be 9.22. That's with the Soviet rework. And then in March, hot on the heels of February's release, is going to be the big one, World of Tanks 1.0, which is the HD maps. I don't know. Hold on to your hats for that one. That seems very close to the February one. They're working both right now, so I don't know. I think they've had separate people working on this HD maps for a long time, so we'll go with that. See how it goes with them. All right, so the last thing I got is a kind of a word of warning. There was a big ban wave in Gaijin's game. It was at War Thunder. And what happened is some people had bought some third-party codes and things like that, which you can often find online. You can find anything online, obviously. And you get these things for big discounts. Sometimes they're legit. Sometimes, shocker, they're stolen. And what happened is these guys put the codes in, and then the credit card company or somebody figured out that it was a stolen credit card, or however chicanery or shenanigans it was bought with. Obviously, somebody fenced it, and then they resold it to the players. Well, the players got caught with their pants down and ended up having their accounts banned because they basically owed the company money. As the cost of whatever it was that they got for free was not free, or decreased cost. The warning is you can do whatever you want, obviously, but if you were buying stuff from a third party for a online game, then you take your chances at that point. And a lot of people are going to throw their hands up and say, well, it wasn't my fault. But at the same time, I have to ask, how damn gullible can you be? So careful with all that stuff. Sometimes companies have third-party sites that are official and authorized. Sometimes they're not. Like I said, people are going to do what they're going to do. Sometimes you get a great deal on these things. Or sometimes you get your account banned because you owe them money. Word of warning. All right, guys, I am down to the bottom of my coffee. We talked about some holiday ops and how that's going. I'll let you know in game. Maybe even do a video as I try to construct the last of the decorations later on this evening. We talked about some low-hanging fruit they could work on, skills, perks, cleaning up their beta, Hall of Fame, all that good stuff. We talked about news and some bits, and then a quick warning at the end. And that is all I got, man. Been a good holiday. Take a look at the garage. This thing's going away. Pretty soon you're going to be back to your standard garage and your daily drudgery. But I'll still be here drinking coffee, talking about tanks, so we'll see you later.